Alrighty, welcome to 1 Million Cups. That video was put together by a local artist and illustrator here in Bismarck called Ben Brick. Is Ben here this morning? No? Well, give it up for Ben. You guys, he's a great illustrator. If you see him, tell him thank you for putting that together. And speaking of art, we have a random act of art this week. We have Erica Thune. You saw some of her artwork out in the lobby, a few pieces here. And she's going to be coming up on the stage to just talk for a couple minutes about how she got started, you know, a little bit about her process and whatever else she wants to talk about. And think of a couple questions that you guys can ask her. So help me welcome Erica to the stage.
Hi everyone, my name is Erica Thune. I'm a local artist, like he said. I just want to talk a little bit today about how I got started with my business and a little bit about my process. So I actually went to school at UND and I am a psychology major, so I graduated with a psychology degree. The whole time I was taking art classes, I got a minor in visual art. So towards the end I started getting into my studio classes, my advanced classes, and I could kind of finally do what I wanted to. And so that's when I started doing abstract art. And some of my first abstract pieces are this one right next to me and then a few of the circles in the hallway. And so the idea behind those, I called it contained chaos. And so it's the idea that you can contain something chaotic inside the circle and it can't escape from the bounds. And I kind of compared that to us as humans with our thoughts and feelings and all the crazy things going on inside, and they're inside of your body, and it can't escape the bounds. So that's kind of how it started. And then more recently, I've been exploring the chaos within. So a lot of my recent work is more like this, and it goes to the edge of the page. So the way I do my art is just basically reflecting my feelings and my thoughts and my experience of life onto paper or a canvas like this. So this is just the way I interpret things, interpret how I'm feeling through textures and lines and colors. So that's basically what I've been doing. I launched my website about 9 months ago in June, at the beginning of the summer, right after I graduated. And so I've been creating and selling work through my website. It's been really great. I've been able to see how my own artistic abilities have changed as I've been selling. Yeah, that's about it though. Thank you.
Awesome. Is there any questions out there? Just a couple of questions anybody wants to ask her. I have one. So what made you pursue this as a passion, and what made you go, this is really something I want to try and pursue, and do full time?
Okay. Once I started in my studio classes, I was doing things that I liked more. And so, the whole time I was in college, it didn't really seem realistic to me. I've always wanted to be an artist, but I was like, I gotta find a degree, and that's not gonna be this. But once I started making things I liked, I would post photos on social media, different things, and people are like, how much for this? And I'm like, what do you mean, how much for this? Like, you can have it if you find a connection with it. Like, I don't know. I make these things because I like them. So I got a lot more of that, and I was like, okay, maybe this is something I can actually pursue, and like I don't really see a reason why not at this point. So I kind of just went for it, and that's where I am. So
amazing. Give it up for Erica. She is going to be in the lobby after 1 million cups today. So she has some business cards and some more artwork in the lobby if you guys didn't see that. So make sure to chat with her and find out more about what's going on in her life. So
thank you.
All right, we are going to get started with the rest of the program. My name is Keenan Hoff. I will be your MC this morning. And if you guys haven't done this yet, there is a 1 Million Cups app on the iOS and the Google Play Store. So download that and check in. That really helps us keep track of how many people are coming and who's all coming every single week, and kind of helps us compare our metrics to other cities around the country. So make sure you guys do that. That would be awesome. And 1 Million Cups would not happen if it wasn't for these fantastic sponsors. So I want to thank them. If you know somebody that works at one of these organizations or runs one of them, make sure you thank them for the contribution that they give to 1 Million Cups. It's a huge help to make this happen every single week, week after week. So how many first-timers? We got a big audience here. We got quite a few first-timers. Awesome. Welcome. Give it up for the first-timers in the audience. First timers, that was selfish. I just needed a drink of water. So, thank you guys for being here. 1 Million Cups is a free weekly program that gives local startups and entrepreneurs a platform and an opportunity to connect with you guys, the community here in Bismarck. So, there's going to be an opportunity to ask them some questions, ask Jake some questions. So, as he's speaking, make sure you guys think of some challenging questions to ask him and really put him on the spot and make sure we're bringing value to what he's talking about today. So, and it was started with the idea of, can we change the face of our community by having 1 million cups of coffee together? So if you haven't got a coffee yet, if it was busy out there, make sure you run out there while I'm talking before the presentation starts and fill up on that coffee. And if you are afraid of mics, you can ask questions with hashtag 1MCND on Twitter. We have Ashton here as our Twitter asker, questioner. So use hashtag 1MCND to ask the questions on there. Start Bismarck. So if you guys have an announcement, you guys can make your way to the stage now. Start Bismarck is a local grassroots organization built with volunteers and built around the idea of fostering the startup community here in Bismarck. So if you guys have an announcement, there's a few of them that I know we have, but if you guys have an announcement, you can make your way to the front now, and I will turn it over to TEDx first.
Hi there, my name is Michaela Unruh. I'm a student at the University of Mary and actually president right now of our TEDx UMary organization. And I just wanted to come by today, let you all know that our event is coming up here on April 4th. It's going to be up at the campus in the business school again. Our theme this year is going to be because. So we're kind of changing the focus of our event from the outcomes of it to looking at those motivating factors behind action and looking at that drafting process that goes into the ideas. So tickets we're hoping will be live up on our website within the next few days, and please just keep an eye out for that. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Jackson, and I'm on the board for the Welcome House, which is a homeless shelter here in Bismarck that serves families, kind of focusing on children that are homeless and also single moms. And we're a very small organization, but we have a big fundraising event tomorrow night where we have Kat Perkins coming to town, and she's actually releasing a new single. And it's really huge for our organization, and I just can't stress how much it would mean to us to have some more people buy tickets. We haven't sold as many tickets as we had hoped, and I just would ask that you and your organizations might consider just going on to the Bismarck Events Center website or e-tickets and purchasing those. Those are $35 in advance, $40 at the door. The concert starts at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, and it's going to be great. So thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Shay Peterson. I'm with the Bismarck Mandan Chamber of Commerce. Next week, we have our yearly Economic Outlook Forum, and I just wanted to invite you all to take part in it. It starts next Thursday, March 15th, 7 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at the Ramkota Hotel and Conference Center at 3rd Street. And what the Economic Outlook Forum is, it's really looking at a business year behind and how successful you were in the year ahead and what's to come. And our keynote speaker this year is Professor Ernie Goss from Creighton University.
Good morning. I'm Jared with the North Dakota Department of Commerce. So we work with a program called Innovate ND, which helps entrepreneurs and startups. We can provide up to $24,000 to help grow your business. Actually, this Monday we kicked off our boot camp series, which is going to be about 5 weeks online with the live boot camp April 6th and 7th in Fargo. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop me or visit innovatend.com.
Morning, everybody. Marlo Anderson. Have a meetup this Saturday, 10 to noon, over Classic Rock Coffee. We're going to be talking this week about how to drive more traffic to your website. Seating is extremely limited, so if you're interested, go to meetups or meetup.com. You'll find how to drive more traffic to your social media. Just look for that, and you'll find it and register. It's free. So thanks, everybody.
All right, if you guys are interested in volunteering with 1 Million Cups or some of the other organizations that 1 Million Cups puts on, contact Janelle and she can get you guys plugged into some of the different events and things that are taking place here in Bismarck. So up next, we have Jake Joraanstad. So Jake Joraanstad is the co-founder and CEO of Myriad Mobile, a full-service mobile and web application development company. And what began as Myriad Project in 2013 with Mindak Farmers Cooperative to automate paperwork and sugar beet field reports is now a full product and mobile app called Bushel. Bushel is the grain industry's first automated real-time software platform developed directly for elevators and cooperatives. Jake is utterly obsessed with technology that makes life simpler and is a co-founder of Emerging Prairie, a Fargo-based entrepreneurial ecosystem building organization. He made the drive all the way from Fargo last night to be with us this morning. So let's give Jake Joraanstad a warm Bismarck welcome.
All right. Hey, guys, thanks for having me. So my name's Jake Joraanstad from Fargo, really long drive, the whole 3.5 hours I think it took me last night, so not the best roads. So while we started the company Myriad Mobile back in 2011, today I'm going to talk a lot more about Bushel, so you won't hear so much about Myriad, but a quick kind of fun side note is our team worked with Kaufman, who runs 1 Million Cups out of Kansas City, and we built the mobile app for 1 Million Cups about 1.5 years ago. So if you check it out and you like it, it's us. If you don't like it, it wasn't us that built it. So, you know, historically, we started the company in 2011, and we've done a lot of work in software. We've done well over 400 projects, a lot of stuff in mobile technology. We started off in our dorm rooms learning on YouTube how to build Android and iOS apps, and brought us all the way to today, where this is a little bit of an outdated deck, but 60 employees on the team. Last year, we hired 25 of them in Fargo and 5 in Omaha. Long story short, we bought a company in Omaha last year as well. So a lot of crazy things going on, but all of it is sort of centered around this idea that we finally realized that we need to focus, and agriculture was where we needed to focus our time and efforts. And so we started thinking about how much work we've done in mobile over the last few years, and we started to look at what industries we were doing the most work in. And can't believe it, in Fargo, North Dakota, most of our work was in agriculture. And we're like, wow, we're all like grew up on the farm, and we all know what's going on in egg, and for some reason, all these egg companies like to work with us. So we finally said, okay, instead of trying to focus on everything and doing work for banks and all kinds of organizations and startups, let's focus in a little bit and figure out how we can be experts in something. And besides just some parts of software, but how can we be experts in an industry, and that's agriculture for us. So these are some of the customers we worked with. And that led us to our first product. So we traditionally, like we said, service company, we get contracts to build products for other companies. Been doing that for the last 7 years. But Bushel, 2 years ago, came out of one of those projects. We said Mindak was a sugar beet group, and we said, what if we could take what the sugar beet guys need and bring it to the grain industry? If you know sugar beets, it's a relatively small industry in the U.S. compared to row crops, corn, wheat, all the soybeans, all the major crops in the U.S. That's a humongous market. And we said, let's build something that can serve that. And so we created Bushel. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. So what does Bushel do? So we help farmers who are doing business with their co-op or elevator group do business better, do business more informed, and even do it right from their phone. And so I'll go through a few of the features, and I'll tell you some stories. So big picture, and you've maybe seen this before, and a lot of co-ops have these things, which are the ability to go in, see which co-op you're doing business with, see what their prices are for different grains and such. And then one of the cool things that we did was, if you know any farmers, which raise your hand if you know a farmer in the room, and you're all from North Dakota, so if you don't raise your hand, not sure what you're doing every day. But one of the things that you'll find from farmers is they sit in line sometimes way longer than they like to with their pickup truck or with their semi-trucks and loads of grain. And so we have this thing called receiving time, which they can pop up in the app and see a picture of the line of trucks that's updated every so often, maybe every 5 minutes, of how long that line really is and how long it's taken for those trucks to get through. So these are some cool things, but we consider them sort of things that just should be in a product kind of out the gate. What we did that was different, there we go, oh, too far, there we go, was we said, what if we could get the data that each of those farmers is getting on paper today, this thing called a scale ticket. Has anybody seen a scale ticket or a receipt from the grain elevator? So they get, generally a farmer will get hundreds, maybe thousands of these, depending on how big of operation they have a year, sometimes from multiple places. And they have to figure out how to keep track of all those and then get them into some sort of format so they can understand how well they're doing as a business. And typically, you get the receipt on the way out of the elevator after you've dumped the grain, and you put it in like some sort of coffee tin in the truck, probably on the seat. And if the windows are down, there's a good chance they blow out. This is like a real problem, right? And this isn't like a receipt like a grocery store, $5. This is like thousands of dollars worth of grain you just brought in, and you need to understand how far along you are in that process. So we said, what if we can get that right out of the elevator's system and onto the phone for the farmer, so when they leave, they have everything they need to make decisions. So that's what we did. The problem was, we thought it was a great idea, and we started to do it, and we realized that the systems that the elevators are running are from, no joke, sometimes the 80s, most likely the 90s, and if they're really lucky, they've got something like that came after Y2K. Okay? So, and I can tell you the Y2K thing was a real problem because some of the software we work with has fixes for Y2K in them where they were concerned that their software was going to crash, and so they changed date formats in the software to make sure it wouldn't crash at Y2K. So this is real stuff that was still being used today, and it's stuff that's just so old. So scale tickets, that's everything. If you know farming, you know that you need to know what crop it was. So I just dropped off some corn. I should look at tickets over here. I've got, my truck weighed this much. When I left, it weighed this much. So obviously, I know how much grain I dropped off. It has everything from your different volumes to even details, moisture content and things like that. So a farmer knows if they're bringing in, it's too wet, they're getting docked for their price. They can go into the other side of the field, or they can go dry the corn and make better decisions, and now they're going to make more money. And right now, if you know the commodity market, that's a problem. And so we need to fix that. And so the other thing is contracts. So not only are you getting these receipts, but you're fulfilling a contract that you signed at some point previously in the year or the year before to deliver this grain. And that dictates how much you're going to get paid for the grain you're bringing in. And most farmers don't know where they're at on those contracts, like how far along they are, how much grain they delivered for the contract, unless they're typing in these scale tickets to keep track. Well, this just tells you straight up. It just says, here's how much they're paying you on your contract. Here's when you have to deliver it, which is a certain time period you might forget about once in a while, which hopefully you don't. And then how much you've delivered and how much is total you have to deliver. So I know that I need to bring in another 11,000 bushels of whatever it might be, corn, to make sure I fulfill my contract. So those are really important things that you assume are known to growers, and to be honest, it's in their head right now, unless they're using a product like this. And then the last thing is prepaid balances. How much fertilizer you have at the co-op or elevator to use for the year, seed, chemical, propane, fuel, whatever you're doing, you can see the balances of what you've purchased already. So that's all valuable stuff. What we're doing right now that's coming out is, so the things before this we already have. Now we're working on contracts. So today you have to run around with a paper contract and find the farmer, get them to sign it, or get them to confirm over the phone, and then you assume everyone's good, and it's not always known exactly that that contract was written down correctly or that the price was what they wanted, etc. Well, we can just do it in Bushel now. So they can type in the grower's phone number, send them the contract through the app, and they just sign it right there. So there's no question about whether it got signed and what the details were. It's all available. And then lastly, the ability to pay. So today everything's done, of course, via paper checks. Invoices are sent in the mail, etc. A lot of groups want to move to ACH. Credit cards don't work in this industry because a 3.5% fee on a $20,000 purchase when the margins are 6%, not going to work, right? But when you think about ACH and be able to pay with your bank account, we're used to doing that to pay your credit card bill. You pull up your app, you just hit pay the bill, done. That's what we're doing for the farmer to be able to pay their bill at the elevator, as well as receive their payments from the grain. So that's something that's coming this summer. We have the same stuff on the web as well. I won't go into details, but mobile's first to us. And then, of course, you need to be able to do it on the web as well when you're home. So is it working, and are we making progress? So in late 2016, when we kind of first launched the initial version of what became Bushel, we launched it in, I think, September timeframe with our Arthur Companies, a private elevator group in North Dakota, and they had 75% of their farmers signed up for the app within 4 weeks. So traditionally in this market, in software for ag, you're getting less than 10% adoption. And we got 75% out the gate, right? These guys are nearing 100%. I think there may be a couple really old guys that have not signed up yet, but everybody else is using the app at Arthur, right? And it's valuable, and they're still using it today. Tons of views. Right off the bat, they're catching things like, hey, this contract's like not correct, or I misunderstand where I'm at on this thing. I can fix it right now. I can call my elevator group and solve the problem. So some really quick value. And the other piece that's really important is you think about farmers today and even ourselves. I mean, I'm not interested in remembering usernames and passwords if I didn't have to. And to be honest, I have way too many of those things going on. And a farmer has the same view on those things, and maybe even more of an extreme view where they're just not interested. My co-founder, Ryan, his dad, calls him about once a month, has him reset his password because he just can't remember his password ever. Doesn't matter if he wrote it down. It just doesn't work. So what we did was we said, let's not do that. Let's see if we can come up with another way. Well, we know that these growers are already doing business with the co-op when they go get the app for the most part. So all they do is they type in their cell phone number, and we go and check all the accounts that have their number on it, and then text them a 4-digit code, and they're logged in. They type that code in, and they're done. They don't have to remember the password or the username. They just have to know what their phone number is. You'd think most people can do that. So it works, and that's why we're getting the type of adoption that we're getting. So far, we have over 8,000 users in the United States and Canada using Bushel, whether it's in North Dakota, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska. We've signed, we're getting the adoption rate we want. We've signed 30 companies now onto Bushel, 30 different co-op groups, in over something like 300 and some locations in the United States. We're live in about half of them, and we'll be live in the other half by spring here, by the time spring rolls around. So this is kind of what our map looks like. So just to be fair here, we started doing this like a year and a half ago, and I don't think we've ever experienced anything that's moving this fast, and I don't think a lot of people have seen it. And I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, look at the map. This is exciting. And so we are making major progress. Here's a lot of the North Dakota groups that we're working with. Here's a lot of, Iowa is a huge market, Nebraska, Kansas. These are not necessarily all live, but they've all signed up, and we're moving them onto the product. So it's pretty darn exciting what we're doing. One of my favorite quotes, it's kind of like what Steve Jobs said as well, if you read this. He said, none of our farmers really were asking for this, but now they're telling us they don't know what they were doing before they had the product, right? And Steve Jobs said, sometimes people don't know what they want until I show it to them. And that's kind of a derivative of what Ford said when he said, hey, if I asked people what they want, they would have said a faster horse. I gave them a car, right? And I think this is a situation like that. I'm not saying we're creating the next car, but or a flying car would be the next thing probably. But it is making a difference for farmers. And then my favorite quote, this is a real quote. We didn't make this one up. We let him download the app at the grower meeting that we just launched at, and he just looks at it and he goes, you just made a farmer really happy. That was it. So thanks for having me. I'm going to let you guys ask some questions here in a minute, but I'm going to show you a cool video that we did for the product so you kind of get an idea of how it's used. How do we fix the problem where a farmer doesn't actually have access to some of the data at the elevator? How do they make better decisions if they don't even have access to that type of information?
We'd deliver our grain and get our tickets, and we'd have to put them into an Excel spreadsheet and add them all up and get our totals. There wasn't anyone else out there that seemed to have the features that we wanted or the right product like Bushel did.
The core differentiation between one elevator and the next is their people, how they interact with their grower, and the technology they're using. Obviously, you can go dig around and find your contract in paper form somewhere, the tickets, if you can find those, great, but it's a lot easier if it's just right in your pocket all the time.
Innovation's always been part of the farming culture. Everybody's got a phone. More and more people are doing business on the phone. We have to make sure that we're staying on top of that to provide that to our customers.
Part of the solution was to integrate directly with the elevator so that we could get that information in near real time to a grower. So a grower now can log in, it's really simple, and they're logged in for a year.
By being able to provide their account information at their fingertips, we're providing the service to our customers that they need and they require to maintain the operations of their farm.
Bushel was made to be just really simple. Everything is what it says it is, so if it's price later, you click price later, that's what you see.
With the Bushel app, it gives us live, on-the-go amounts we've hauled in.
For the first time, they actually have this information coming to them automated. You're not typing it in, it's just coming to you right from the elevator system to your phone. And that's something that is a huge step forward. All of your data from the elevator is coming into the app, so you know your contract, delivery times, you know your progress towards the completion of the contracts, scale tickets, price later. So if you've got grain sitting there and you just don't really know how much you've got at the elevator, you don't have to make a phone call. You can use Bushel.
The Bushel product provides that pioneering innovation spirit with excellent service, and the Bushel team fits that as well. Questions or concerns, they're right on top of it. You know, they're really responsive to support calls.
In our marketplace, it's becoming a necessity almost to have this. The more informed you are, the better decisions you can make.
Being able to use Bushel to be able to provide fingertip information for their scale tickets, for their contracts, what they've prepaid for fertilizer, having that available to our customers is a great service that we're able to provide to them.
You don't have a computer within your combine, but you got your phone or your tablet, and you can bring the app up and see how much we've hauled in and trust that.
Everybody wants things on their phone. Everybody wants to do business on their phone. They want information at their fingertips whenever they want it.
The next generation really wants this, and I think it really helps drive business.
All right, give it up for Jake. Alrighty, we have Kate as a mic runner this morning, and we have Ashton on Twitter. So if you guys have some questions, remember hashtag 1MCND. So we got a question right up front here.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah. Go ahead. You're first. No.
Oh, the North Dakota, not nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the presentation. That's the product is amazing. When you sell or what's the configuration for the customer? Is this a subscription service, an annual type of a deal?
I should have pointed that out. This is the part as to why we think it's working so well. So it's not free. It's the co-op pays for the product as a license per year, and kind of based on the number of users using the product, but the farmers use it for free. And so we don't believe that farmers should have to pay for the things like this. We think the agribusinesses that take the margin of the grower and they make money on that, and the next guy makes money, and then finally we eat the product. Like, all those people have more money than the guy who built it, because it's just how it works. They're on the bottom of the food chain. And so we think everybody else should pay the bill, and that's what we do. So the growers use it for free.
So how does that, how are they billed? Is it based on how many growers that they have, how much volume they're doing, or how is that?
So it starts off at $12,000 a year is the license fee you buy, and we install it for free. There's no upfront expense to get it installed on your system. So that's about the first time that any elevator's ever heard that they don't have to pay for the install, right? And so that was unique in the market. And then it's $12,000 a year for the first 100 growers to use it. And then for every grower after that, it starts at about $3.50 a month, and it goes down to about $1 per month as they scale up the number of growers. So some organizations have a couple hundred growers. They might pay $15,000 a year, maybe. Some organizations have 8,000 growers, like in Iowa, and so their bill will be significantly higher than that. But at scale, they can afford it, right? And so we just built it that way. We initially thought we would charge by the number of elevator locations they had and just say, okay, you have 7 locations, your bill is, $5,000 a month. Well, the problem was they didn't believe that we would get the adoption on the growers. They didn't think any of the growers were going to use it, whatever. And so we had a lot of pushback on that pricing, and we said, well, screw it. We think that they'll use it. So we started charging per user, and guess what? They're paying more than they would have paid otherwise. So
Yeah, right in front. Evan.
I know Bushel came out of Myriad, so now that Bushel's getting some good traction, tell me a little bit about the relationship now between Bushel and Myriad in terms of how resources are shared and what the future holds there.
So we've got 60 people. Bushel is within the company. It's just a product of Myriad Mobile, if you want to describe it like that. It doesn't have its own investors or term sheets or anything like that. It's just within the company, and we've slowly pivoted teams into it. So it's kind of the nice part about building a service company is if you have a product idea, and CoSchedule did this in Bismarck, the same exact method almost, you start having just small teams work on it with the extra money you might have laying around, and you just let them work on it. So last year in May, when we raised a round of funding for the whole company, but with the focus on Bushel, we had 5 people on the product. Today we have 25 working on it out of the 60. And there's going to be 30 and maybe 35 this year working on Bushel, and the rest of the team is working on contracts we do in the egg business. So we're starting to become a Bushel-first company more so than a service company. And quite honestly, I think there'll be a point where we'll just drop the name Myriad Mobile or maybe sell off the non-egg businesses that we do and just become Bushel with a sort of a service group to help businesses as well as the product. I think that's where we're going. It's that big of a deal for us.
Yeah, question from Levi.
Jake, thanks. That was awesome. What's Bushel's biggest challenge that you're confronting right now?
Well, initially it was overcoming these systems that we didn't understand. To be honest, our teams are mostly in their late 20s and 30s. We're working on software that was made before they were born. I'm not kidding, like most of the time. And so we had to learn this learning curve was significant. But our first installation maybe took 3 or 4 months. In February, we did one in 2 weeks, and we think we can do it in 5 days now, right? And so we've significantly improved that part of the problem, and so that's not the issue anymore. We're the only product right now in the market like this, and nobody else has come out with something to compete against it. And we just have to go really fast to make sure that we win the market. So I'm not sure. I don't think any of the big egg companies will come out with something like this. I think it's going to be competitive either internally, like they might decide to build it themselves on the bigger companies, or we're going to see some other company like it. Now, I think Bushel is the best brand name ever in agriculture. So we got the trademark. We have bushel.egg, the website. I mean, it's pretty rock solid on the brand. So if we can just keep hauling, I think we're going to be good, but we have to get our sales team scaled up. We've got 4 or 5 guys helping sell Bushel right now on the team. That needs to be 10 probably, and we need to figure out how to get to other parts of the market. We're mostly in the Midwest. We don't spend time in, Colorado, for example. We don't spend time on the East Coast. We need to figure out how to reach those markets quickly so that we can get the whole swath of the U.S.
Yeah, question right there.
Yeah, this might be more technical, but you're saying you're working with these really old systems. So do you hook on top of them, or do you replace them and work with them to have your own type of technology at the elevators, or how does that work?
So when we first started, we were debating if we were going to also build the accounting system itself that they're using, and we realized that would be a huge mistake. Generally it takes a year to switch a company from one system to the next. And so we said we can't do that because we want to go faster than that, and we can't be doing multi-year projects to get these customers live. We want to get this going now. And so we said that's a bad idea. And then we figured out that if they have some sort of database, SQL database, and we have a way to let the co-op let us have access to it, we can make it work. So we built this tool, the only Windows installer tool we've ever built in the history of the company. It's called Bushel Tunnel. We give it to the customer. They install it on the server, like almost anybody can do it, and it gives us a VPN access, basically, so a secure tunnel to that server. And then our team, what we call spelunking, goes in there and figures out what in the hell is going on in this database? And then I'm serious, it's a real task. And the Y2K problem, one company, we had to call them because they did something with the dates that we've never seen before. All the dates were stored in 4 letters, A, B, C, G, F, or whatever, 5 letters. Just made no sense. We're like, what in the hell is going on here? And so we couldn't even translate, couldn't figure out what it was. And so we had to get a hold of somebody who built it and like figure out what they were doing. And that was because they were worried Y2K was going to wreck their software. So they just made up their own thing. And so we figured out how to install this thing, and it sucks the data out of the system and puts it in Google Cloud, our Google Cloud that we're running, and then we serve it to our app and to other parties as well. So, for example, if you're a farmer and you're using a certain accounting system on the farm, or you're using a farm management tool, you'll at some point be able to click a button in your app called Bushel, like Connect My Elevator, and you type in your phone number, and then you can get your scale tickets to come from our cloud and our app right into whatever system you need to go into next, maybe QuickBooks in the future, that kind of thing. That's what we're enabling as well. So not only are we giving the tool, but we're enabling the first time that farmers can have access to their data in other tools as well, and sort of this ecosystem model. Make sense?
Yeah, question right there.
Yep. I'm interested in kind of the support or supporting this. How, since you're dealing with farmers and you're dealing with elevators, like how does that, talk about how you support all of those users with different goals and things.
So this is a magical situation, and it is because the co-op is actually providing the app to the farmer. So we give the co-op a branded version of the app, and it says powered by Bushel, but it's their co-op app. You can't find a Bushel app in the App Store. You can find a company called Bushel that built a bunch of apps for co-ops. And so the first line of defense for problems is actually the co-op. So they'll call the co-op first, and generally it's actually the co-op's, I'm not blaming them, but it's generally their problem because the data was put in wrong on the system, or the scale made a mistake or something. And so they generally have to fix the initial problem. They're only aware of it so acutely because of Bushel, but they can go in and fix the problem. And then if it's actually a problem on our end, then the elevator team has support portal access for our whole company, so they can come in and request issues to be fixed if there is any, and we'll address it that way. So we actually are like a second tier defense, so we don't actually talk to 8,000 growers, although we have their data available to us. We don't have to talk to those users yet. So we think there's an advantage in maybe being able to do that in the future, especially if we can bring them more tools. But right now, we're like the second line, which actually makes our life a lot easier. We have like 3 people on support total in the whole company, so we probably couldn't handle 8,000 angry farmers.
Yeah, we got Marlo in the back.
Mr. Joraanstad.
Hey, Marlo.
Hey, this is a great product, by the way. So I want to know more about how you came up with the name. It is a rock-solid name, and I think it's important for businesses to understand maybe a process of your process of coming up with the name and how important it is.
So the relatively short story is we had the Mindac Farmers Co-op, which is a sugar beet company. We just call it the Mindac app. We just put it out there that way. Then we had Arthur companies wanting to do something that we pitched them on, this idea of what became Bushel. At the time, in 2016, we called it M-Agri, M-A-G-R-I. That's a horrible name. So you can just say that if you want. So that was the best name we had come up with. We couldn't figure out what we should call it. We couldn't figure out like what wasn't trademarked that we could maybe go with, or wasn't already being used somewhere else. And for some reason, the main unit of measurement in agriculture that we use was not trademarked as a software name and was not being used in any major way that we were aware of. And so we filed the trademark, we rebranded everything Bushel, we got the trademark, we have a patent pending under it, and it worked. So, and I didn't come up with it. Camille on our marketing team, she came up with, had all these horrible names on the board, and then there was like 3 good ones, and half of them, all of them were being used except for Bushel. I'm like, well, that's the obvious one right there. So it was not a simple process. It probably took us a total of a year to go from M-Agri to Bushel. It was like a year's time before we really landed on that. So it's not like it was overnight, wake up one day and we knew what the right answer was. So
Awesome. We got some questions from Twitter. Ashton.
Yes, it says, have you considered any licensing agreements with big players?
We have big players asking for licensing agreements. There's a problem in agriculture, which is that people don't trust some of the big companies. And that can be any one of the big ones that come to mind in your head. What we're focusing on is which licensing opportunities are going to provide value for the farmer as well. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do it. Or the co-op. The co-op's the paying customer, but if we make their farmers happy, then they're happy. That's kind of how we look at it. And so we're looking at insurance as being a big priority. So how do we make the insurance process easier? So we can actually do almost an entire crop insurance report with one button on Bushel right now. We know we can do it. We've proven it. And now we're working on who the best insurance companies are to partner with. And we're talking to the number one in crop insurance company in the U.S., and we're talking to the number one credit and insurance writing group in the U.S. right now. And they're both in discussions with us on legal on how we'll do this and arrange some sort of business thing. But they also realize, and it's proof that we're doing something right when they think this is the only way they've ever had access to this kind of data. But we have to let the farmer individually decide if they want to give them access. We can't give these groups access to our system, but if a farmer uses the login, types in their phone number and says, yes, I want to give this insurance company my data, they can do that. And so we're almost like doing a per user, they can make their own decision on that. And that seems to work a lot better than telling them we're going to sell all of their data to somebody. That's terrifying.
Jordan.
Yeah, everyone's saying it, but this is incredible, Jake. This is sweet to see.
We're pretty excited. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's merited.
Yeah.
But is this the same problem that can be solved in the same way internationally?
Except for calling it Bushel, which everything else is measured in tons around the world. So we'll have an app called Tons probably someday, maybe. Sounds terrible as well, but Canada uses bushels for the most part, so we've got stuff going on in Canada already. Yes, in some parts of the world, there's a one-to-many relationship with farmers. So co-op has hundreds of farmers. That's the one-to-many thing. In other parts of the world, though, in some places, that's not how it works. Private company owns all the land and all the operations, and they just hire workers to do the job. They're not necessarily farmers who are selling their commodity. So although they have some tracking problems with the data, they have more control over the situation than a co-op who's sourcing their commodities. And so Australia is a good example where we can do this. Brazil has the same sort of co-op structure. Russia and Ukraine does not. They own all of the land privately. Mostly Putin owns most of the land. Australia, the banks own the land, but farmers rent the land and farm the land and share the costs with the banks and then sell it to the grain operators. So there's a huge opportunity around the world. We're just focused on the U.S. market right now and in Canada.
Got it. Yeah, another question back here.
I have a question. By the way, this is a great product, and I think it's amazing. But you said about expanding. What are you guys doing marketing-wise to expand to each coast? I know in California there's lots of maybe not farming per se, but vineyards and that kind of thing. What are you guys doing to market those type of aspects?
Good question. So we're not going to do vineyards, at least anytime soon. It's a different process. It's more like a private land, private processing. Everything's done internally. You don't know this necessarily, like it's not obvious, but California has one of the largest agriculture production stats in the country. Mostly Northern California has a lot of agriculture going on. Oregon, Washington, just as the same opportunity. There's big co-ops out there, big groups, even the privates, the Andersons, Gavilon Grain, ADM, Bunge, the co-op like CHS, the large ones. Those are all customer potentials for us. Some of them we have, some of them we're talking to. But the only way to get out there is we figured out is get in some of the publications that are important to these different agribusinesses that buy this kind of product. And then we go to a lot of trade shows. And I hate trade shows, and trade shows normally don't work, in my opinion, from our past if you're just a generalist. But if you have a specific solution that people that are at the trade show are looking for, it works really well. And so we meet with current customers at trade shows, future customers at trade shows. Farmers are there, and they're like, check this out, I'm using your app. And it's working that way. So we just spend a lot of money going to trade shows. Tens of thousands this year we've spent already going to trade shows. So,
yeah, question back there.
Yes. What kind of competition do you have out there? First part, and second part is, what other commodities have you guys explored? Anything in the oil and gas sector at all?
good questions. So the first part, there's not a product that's sort of doing this in an agnostic fashion where a co-op can just sign up for it and we can install it on their system. So our biggest competitor is either not doing anything, which is the hardest thing to overcome sometimes, is you do want to do this, but they don't believe us. And so we have to show them a lot of social proofing as to how it's working elsewhere. And then the other competition potentially is coming from the ERP systems themselves that have the installation on the elevator already. They could easily build a product that works with their accounting system wherever they have customers, but they don't have the ecosystem effect that we have when we can install it anywhere, and they don't have the team that knows what they're doing, to be honest. I mean, they're still building these old software systems and maintaining. Most of them are in support mode where more than half their staff is usually support people and maintaining the customers as is. They're not building new products per se. And some of them are, but I'd say that we've partnered with enough of them now to know that if we keep focus in our area and they focus in accounting, I think we have a mutually beneficial relationship. So we've been able to keep that from being a competitive problem. And so we don't have a lot of competition yet, if I'm being honest. And I think if we keep going, we're about a year and ahead of the game right now. If we can get out and keep going this quickly, I think it's going to be pretty obvious, I think, at some point that we're the lead in this market. And then your second question was what? What are the commodities? Yeah. So we've got 15, maybe 16 now. The most interesting ones are cotton we're doing. We do have one customer in North Carolina, and cotton's a little bit different. We're trying to be egg only, so we're not trying to figure out other commodity markets like oil and gas and maybe even like logging and things like that. But if anybody else wants to build a product like this, there's a bunch of opportunities outside of egg that you could go and build this exact same solution in and go after a huge market. Oil and gas is one of them. So anything that delivers in some sort of fashion, trucks or trains, and is independent people doing that, is how a product like this could work. So if you want to steal that idea and use it somewhere else, I don't have time to work on that.
So what made the decision to basically put the co-ops forward and say this is this co-op app by Bushel? Was it the back end, or was it the co-ops kind of wanting that we want something that says our name first versus just selecting your co-op once you get inside the app?
Yeah. So most of the market today has products that are focused on the grower, but they don't necessarily focus on the competitiveness between these different groups. We knew that each co-op's not interested in competing. Like they compete with each other. They don't want to have the same thing and they just select from this list. So that was the one thing, and we believe there's 3 differentiators for a co-op or a grain elevator. One is their people and relationships they have. 2 is the location that they're in, which is very important in commodities, and they can't necessarily fix that problem. And then the third one is the technology that they're using. And so the number 1 and the number 3, the relationship side and the technology side, we can bolster if we give their brand first. Because the farmers really think initially, especially, that, hey, this co-op just gave us this tool. This is super valuable to me as a farmer. I'm glad I'm doing business with this co-op. And don't forget that when I say co-op, what that means is the farmer owns stock basically inside that company, and the profits are shared out at the end of the year with the farmers who sold grain and did business with them. And so they have their own incentive to use products that they inside groups that they own. So it's kind of a cycle that makes a lot of sense. So that's why we did it that way.
Yeah, Gustavo.
Talk about adoption, because low user adoption is where platforms and apps go to die. So is that your job as Bushel to get the growers to use the app, or is that the co-op's job to try to get them to, switch from the paper ticket to, using the app?
Well, the switching from a paper ticket to the app it seems really obvious to them when they see that, but it's a marketing problem, and we don't have direct access to their farmers necessarily, and we do, but we won't. It would be weird if I started texting all their farmers. And so we give the co-op a marketing package for free as part of the deal to use to share. So graphics, posters, things to put up at the co-op that help them get the word out that they have an app for their farmers. And at that point, the only other thing we can do right now that we figured out is we can go to grower meetings where they invite a lot of their farmers in different points of the year. We go there and present on the product and how to use it. And that seems to work really well. And to be honest, we've launched Tharaldson Ethanol here in North Dakota, a huge ethanol plant outside of Fargo. They've got 120 people using the app. I don't think they have more than 150 or 200 farmers that sell to them. And we didn't do any direct launch with them, and I'm pretty sure they haven't pushed it as much as we would like them to. And we have most of their farmers using it. So somehow it's working. I think it's because they go to the coffee shop, and one guy pulls it up, and everybody goes, well, how do you do that? And then they tell them, and then at that moment in time, they all can do it. And there's no registration, right? They just put their phone number in, and it just works if they're a customer. If they're not a customer and they put their phone number in, we give that phone number to the co-op in a report, and they can call those people, and either the phone number was wrong in the system and they can fix it, or it's a customer that's interested in doing business with them but that hasn't yet, and we can give them a lead. So it's a really brilliant idea. I didn't come up with the phone number thing, but it's kind of like a one-step authentication or like a one-click buy on Amazon. It's almost the same thing. You just put one thing in, we text you, you're done. Not a password, just your phone number.
Awesome. Well, if you are new to 1 Million Cups, we ask the same question every single week. So, Kate, will you ask the final question of the week?
Yeah, thanks, Jake, so much for coming to Bismarck and your investment in North Dakota. What can we, as the Bismarck Manda and 1 Million Cups community, do for Bushel?
So, first off, I want to thank the Choice Financial who's in the room, Bank of North Dakota, and a few other groups that have helped fund us along the way and help us get loans. Choice probably shouldn't have given us a loan, if I'm being honest, and they gave us a loan to help buy this company in Omaha, and we've paid back our loans, and we still owe them a lot of money, but normally we pay back our loans. And so, that's really unique to have the Bank of North Dakota and Choice working together to be able to write a loan to a company who doesn't have assets or buildings or things that they can just come take away from us if we don't pay our loan. They have nothing. I mean, they take what little of the house that I have and maybe some cars, and that's about what they can get out of my deal. I want to, in my first child, yeah, my only child. But that's really hard to write a loan for. If you ever try to get a loan as a small business, that's difficult, and the Bank of North Dakota makes it easier. So just ask people about that if you're a small business. So because the more people who get Bank of North Dakota engaged in these things, the more beneficial it will be for all of us as small business owners. So that's one ask I have of you. And then the other one is, if you know a farmer, tell them about Bushel, and all you have to tell them is to ask your elevator. So if they're if they were on the board, even better at the co-op, but tell them about Bushel. It's bushel.ag is the website, bushel.ag, and tell them to tell their elevator about it, and they'll call us, and we'll get it. And if they should probably check to see if their elevator already has it, but assuming they don't, tell them about it, and we'd love to get more help. The farmers help us the most. They tell the co-ops why they want it, and that their buddy has it and I don't, and I'm mad about it. That makes a lot of difference for us. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it.
All right, give it up for Jake.
Thanks, guys. Stay up here. Probably make a couple announcements.
Alrighty, that'll wrap up 1 Million Cups today. Next week we have Jordan Loftus speaking with Growth Labs, so you're not going to want to miss that. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and we will see you guys all next week.